Hey there, everyone. We saw Meta and Microsoft knock it out of the park with their earnings yesterday, but in the background, we had stocks like CoreWeave and then also the quantum stocks start to pop off as well. So CoreWeave likely because of the data center side of things, then quantum because of what Satya Nadella mentioned, and he didn't really say a whole lot in terms of dropping in quantum in general. He said the next big accelerator in the cloud will be quantum, and I'm excited about our progress. So talking about just that little line about quantum being the next thing for cloud computing, that next big shift, that next big change that they have, I think is what allowed the stocks. And if you look, well, I'll show you across about 530, as we go across the different quantum stocks, they all kind of perked their ears up, popped up, and like, what now? Especially after the video that I put out yesterday talking about the sell that we've seen with a lot of the smaller companies that are out there, likely following what we saw with IWM. Now, Big Bear AI stock, just as a side note, for that one, also recovered pretty darn well during those hours. However, it didn't totally break out of structure, but it could break out of structure sometime soon. So could these quantum stocks. So guys, I'm going to share the technicals for these over at the Discord. Come on over and join us. I'll share some of them on YouTube here with you. The link's down in the description. We have an expiring coupon code of Dr. DOCTOR. Supports the channel, but it also gets you a discount on your first month sign up when you sign up for the earner tier. So guys, let's get into the charts on this thing. Boom, there we go. Here's Microsoft. Look at that after hours. Absolutely just a astounding and crushing candle right there, right off the beginning. And that's because the astounding value of their cloud services that they have. And then talking about what we're going to see in quantum as the next big part of cloud computing. If I zoom in here, this is on QUBT. So this is Quantum Computing Inc. right there at 530. We got a volume pop that you might miss if you're not too careful, because it's going to be squished down from what we see with the regular day's trading volumes. But you also do see a significant little pop in there with that move up and then a move sideways from there. So if we can break for QUBT on this, break that 1576, we could continue upward on this thing for several dollars and several percent more, up about 5.43% in the pre-market. After getting roasted the past couple days, if you watch my video from yesterday, you'll know about this downtrend that I talked about. That's not particular to quantum, but it's a lot across a lot of the profitless companies that are out there, likely in sympathy with the movement that we saw for the small caps, the pressure downward on those, as companies don't necessarily do so hot if they're small cap companies and they need access to cheap capital in order to stay afloat or to get things going. And it just isn't coming. And that's sort of what we heard from the Fed. Let's go over to D-Wave Quantum. So here's what I mean about not totally breaking structure for D-Wave Quantum. You can see the bear channel that we're in right now, and we are just riding along this resistance here. The bulls are putting that pressure up against resistance. The bears are currently holding the literal line. In this case, we could see that further upward pressure. We're going to have to watch and see. If we get on top of that trend line, we should be able to put in another $2 or so on D-Wave Quantum if it does happen to continue to move like it has so far. So other ones that we should be looking at today, Rigetti would be another one. Has to break up over 1530. If it can, we should be able to see this 1627 pop out of it, maybe just shy of that around 1620 if the bulls are able to overtake that. And a sign that we want to be looking for is if we're able to break up over that, we might come back here, retest support at 1530, and then take that rocket ship. We're really going to have to watch and see what we get from that. And if we move over to IONQ, for example, this one has a little bit of a bull pennant kind of look. And for this one, 1461 seems to be the support that we're riding on right now, at least out of the technicals that I have up. And we could see that 4334 number, a palindrome, and I do love palindrome, same forward as backward. That could be a little bit of resistance for us. I could see us popping up above that slightly, given the movement that we saw in the post-market here. Now, mind you, I think we had some of that pressure relief come off, and then after that, we got a little bit more excitement coming in. And you guys, let me see if I can show you that volume a little bit better in the after hours. There's that spike that happens about 5:30, got even bigger around 5:45, as this is a 15-minute chart, so you see 15-minute intervals, and then getting a little bit of an easing, if you will, on that next candle that we got as we moved into that next one. But that could be that little pop that we get that brings the excitement today. That allows us to see a little bit more come out of the quantum stocks. There we go. Let's reset the view on this thing, and let's shrink that back down. and we'll reset the view here. And then also QSI in the penny stock territory. Now this one, there we go, still had the excitement, but kind of minimally so right now. A little bit subdued over the other bigger quantum companies that are out there. And another one that I haven't covered before is Arctic Quantum Inc. ARQQ. So for this one, there you can see that nice little volume rise that we got. We seem to be resisting so far right around 35. I don't have the technicals on this one because I just did discover as I was looking into the quantum stocks. We actually had a nice touch on the 50 EMA here. And now our job here, watch for the resistance around the 5 and 13 EMAs if we continue to the north on that. So let's look at the daily charts for some of these. So QUBT, along with some of the resistances that we have, if we can get over the 5 and the 50, that could put us up to that 1691. Now, mind you, the market could open and we could absolutely pull back from these prices, especially if we get significant shorting going on or just people just leaving those positions in general. It's still anybody's guess as to what exactly could happen. And I will just say that we're going off the evidence that we have during the pre-market hours, which are kind of a weird time because even though the volume did give us those nice spikes, it's still relatively low volume compared to what we could see during the regular trading hours. But I do think that we could see a continued pop from where we're at right now that could put us at those double-digit % gains for a lot of these companies that I'm reporting on here in this video. So popping out to the daily chart here, 1691 is where we have a 38.2. But we got our work cut out for us. Just look at these moving averages for the 5 crossing down over the 50. That's signals a further sell, and that's exactly what we have been seeing. We got to break up over the 5 and the 50 EMAs that are on here. And that 50 EMA, as of yesterday's close, at 1592, that's going to be significant resistance for us. But if we're able to overcome that, then we have to watch out around 1691 for where we see that 13 EMA as well. And then there's also evidence of a pivot right around 1642. And that's for D-Wave Quantum. In the background here, you can see the ticker symbol QUBT. And we're looking at the daily chart. If we move over to D-Wave Quantum, where do we find ourselves? Well, it looks like we have a bit of a gap here where we have a free rise and a free fall. And you can see the volatility that we've seen in here. And the price action in the pre-market puts us right at the 5 and the 13. The RSI sitting at about 50 on a daily basis. The RSI is bullish on a weekly basis and on a monthly basis, still a little bit overbought with a slight evidence of some bearish divergence taking place. So this could be a very quick, just intraday play for us for the quantum stocks. It doesn't necessarily mean that we'll have something sustained. We didn't really have a lot to go on, and it doesn't seem like there were any names dropped in the Microsoft earning call, but it does put some excitement back in there into the quantum stocks, and it could be something that does give us a nice pop off of that. So let's take just a few more looks here. Rigetti, what do we got for Rigetti here? Let me get rid of that. We don't need that on there, and we don't need this on here. There we go. We have resistance just about 1530 if we're able to get up above the 5 and the 13. In the pre-market hours so far, we're up above it. Up above 1530, we don't have a lot to stop us up until we get to about 1620. So we'll see if we're able to push those prices. For IONQ, we got a bit of chop here. Looks like we have the 13 sitting at about 42.48. Up above that, there's that 43.34 that I talked about earlier. We want to sit on top of those moving averages if we're going to continue to see this moving in a bullish direction. The pre-market action does put us up above the 50 EMA. And then let's go to ARQ. And then for that one, we actually found support down at the 50 EMA. We'll see with the 5 and the 13 just north of that if we're able to push up above it, or if we get a rejection right around just south of 36 for ARQQ. As we look at that one, and then we go to QSI. There we go. QSI having very muted price action so far, likely being one of the smallest companies that I'm covering here in this video. So still down below the 5 and the 50 and the 13. A bearish setup with bearish momentum, still up above the 200 EMA for the time being. And we actually are sitting in a spot where we find evidence of buying pressure, so we could still see that move up. And it could still give us several more percent, only up about 1.23% during the pre-market hours here. So just as a couple bonuses, one, CoreWeave. I was looking at this one, and honestly, I thought that maybe we would pull back to 90 to 93. But from what we heard from Microsoft and from Meta about data centers, it looks like CoreWeave is like, you know what, maybe we've sold off a little bit too far here. And it's a little bit hard to tell with the technicals on a company like CoreWeave because there's not much to go on. Just take a look at the daily chart. This thing only goes back to the 28th of March. And so putting up some of the technicals that we use on here aren't necessarily all that telling, but we almost got a 1350 cross, which would be a bearish sign. The 5 down below the 13 and below the 50, also bearish with some bearish momentum going on. This might reinvigorate it. At the very least, it does break the structure that we saw before with the trend lines on here. Let me put some of this stuff down for you so that you guys can see it better. There we go. So there's the structure that we had, and check out what we have in the after hours here for CRWV for CoreWeave. Nice little move up. We want to watch for a retest of support on this, depending on how far we pull back. And so maybe if it's a 38.2 move down to about 112, and if we make a 50% move back on this one, maybe we move back to about here where we actually have some historic support right at about 110, and then push further. We'll see. We don't have to retest support, but we could. If we shoot off to the north of this thing, maybe we see 122 pop out of this over the next day or two. We'll have to watch and see for CoreWeave. And because I like you guys so much, and because I do a lot of coverage for Big Bear AI, I just want to show a little bit about what I was talking about in terms of breaking structure for Big Bear AI. Now, I had a nice touch on some pretty significant resistance yesterday. There we go. So going off the peaks that we have back here on Wednesday, the 25th of June, and then the support that we found on the 14th of July, and then the support from yesterday on the 30th. So far, taking a little bit of a bounce off of that. Even though we dipped a little bit in a bearish territory for momentum, we're still up above the 50 and the 200 with some near-term weakness evidenced by the 5 and the 13. Going back down to the 15-minute chart, there's the bear channel that we were in for several days. We did break up above that in terms of the channel. If I do adjust this trend line just a little bit to include some of these higher candles that we have in here, there we go. What you'll see is that we don't have a total structural break as we're sitting just south of this trend line. Yeah, we broke out of the bear channel, which is a good thing. We need to pop up above this yet. And then up north of that, it could put us back in those low 7s territory. We're going to have to watch and see. And there's a ton of noise that I can put up here for you. I don't know that it really serves us all that well. I think rather than showing all of that, if I put up these rectangles, might be a little bit more informative in terms of what it is that we're fighting at the moment. And we have two big fat areas that were support. Now is resistance to fight through as well. But momentum, if we catch on to a big heap of momentum, that can smash us through resistance pretty darn quickly. So we want to watch for volume spikes to come along. We want to watch for big moves to the north that accompany those volume spikes, because those would be those high conviction plays that reinvigorate a stock like Big Bear AI or the quantum stocks that you see. If you see some massive volume come along during the regular trading hours with these marches northward, that's volume confirmation, and the reinvigoration of that momentum can certainly be something that can be lasting over several different trading days. So it could carry us through today, tomorrow, into Monday after that. Guys, if you want to see more technicals, if you want to see the buys and sells that I do, the trades that I make, I'm just one of the panel experts over at the Discord there to support you in your journey towards financial freedom and building alpha in your portfolio. You can sign up using the link down in the description. Code word doctor does expire as a discount code very, very soon. I think there's less than a week left on that. I'd have to check and see the exact date. And then there's also coursework if you learn to do technicals like you see here, if you learn how to trade options to really build that alpha in your portfolio and take advantage of those outsized gains. There's some coursework through Stockmo Academy. Code word doctor also works on that to get you a discount. Go ahead and check them out, guys. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning. We'll see you next video.